Hello everyone. Today I will discuss about weekly rest periods and holiday rest day pay. But before that, what is holiday? Holiday means a day of festivity or recreation when no work is done. It shall be the duty of every employer, whether operating for profit or not, to provide each of his employees a rest period of not less than 24 consecutive hours after every 6 consecutive normal workdays. The employer shall determine and schedule the weekly rest day of his employees subject to collective bargaining agreement and to such rules and regulations as the Secretary of Labor and Employment may provide. However, the employer shall respect the preference of employees as to their weekly rest day when such preference is based on religious grounds. The employer may require his employees to work on any day. First, in case of actual or impending emergencies caused by serious accident, fire, flood, typhoon, earthquake, epidemic, or other disaster or calamity, to prevent loss of life and property or imminent danger to public. Next, in case of urgent work to be performed on the machinery, equipment, or installation to avoid serious loss which the employer would otherwise suffer. Next, in the event of abnormal pressure of work due to special circumstances where the employer cannot ordinarily be expected to resort to other measures. Next, to prevent loss or damage to perishable goods. Next, where the nature of the work requires continuous operations and the stoppage of work may result in irreparable injury or loss to the employer, and lastly, under other circumstances analogous or similar to the foregoing as determined by the Secretary of Labor and Employment. Where an employee is made or permitted to work on his scheduled rest day, he shall be paid an additional compensation of at least 30% of his regular wage. An employee shall be entitled to such additional compensation for work performed on Sunday only when it is his established rest day. When the nature of the work of the employee is such that he has no regular work days and no regular rest days can be scheduled, he shall be paid an additional compensation of at least 30% of his regular wage for work performed on Sundays and holidays. Work performed on any special holiday shall be paid an additional compensation of at least 30% of the regular wage of the employee. We have an example problem here. Jake performed 8 hours work on a special non-working day and an additional 2 hours of overtime. How much would be the total pay he is entitled to for the rest day work and the overtime pay? His pay for the first 8 hours would be 1,040 pesos, which computed as 130 pesos times 8 hours. The same also with his rest day pay, while his overtime pay would be 338 pesos computed as 100 pesos times 130% for work done on a rest day times 130% for the overtime rate times 2 hours. It's the same also in computing overtime pay for work done on special non-working day. To simplify, the first 8 hours of work on a rest day is at 130% of the hourly rate. The overtime performed beyond 8 hours would be at 169% of the hourly rate, which 130% for the rest day premium times 130% for overtime premium. Where such holiday work falls on the employee's scheduled rest day, he shall be entitled to an additional compensation of at least 50% of his regular wage. We have the problem here. Assume in the previous problem that the special non-working day also falls on Jake's rest day. How much would be the pay he is entitled to for the first 8 hours work on a special non-working day that is at the same time his rest day? His special non-working day that is also his rest day pay for the first 8 hours would be 1,200 pesos, which computed as 100 pesos regular hourly rate times 150% for work done on special non-working day that is also a rest day times 8 hours. Next question. How much would be his overtime pay for 2 hours overtime work on a special non-working day that is also rest day? His overtime pay would be 390 pesos computed as 195 pesos times 150% for work done on a special non-working day that is also a rest day times 130% for the overtime rate times 2 hours. Total additional pay would be 1,590 computed as 1,200 for the first 8 hours plus 390 pesos for the overtime pay. To simplify, the first 8 hours of work on a special non-working day that is also his rest day is at 150% of the hourly rate. The overtime performed beyond 8 hours would be at 195% of the hourly rate, or computed as 150% for the special non-working day premium that's also his rest day times 130% for the overtime premium. Where the collective bargaining agreement or other applicable employment contract stipulates the payment of a higher premium pay than the prescribed in the immediately preceding slides, the employer shall pay such higher rate. Monthly paid employees not entitled to additional pay if holiday falls on Sunday. There is no provision of law requiring any employer to make such adjustments in the monthly salary rate set by him to take account of legal holidays falling on Sundays in a given year, or contrary to the legal provisions bearing on the point, otherwise to reckon a year at more than 365 days. What the law requires of employers opting to pay by the month is to assure that the monthly minimum wage shall not be less than the statutory minimum wage multiplied by 365 days divided by 12, and to pay that salary for all days in the month whether work or not, and irrespective of the number of working days therein.